Hey guys, it's Matt here, and today I'm bringing you guys another episode of Matt Rants. And before we begin, I want to mention a few things. First of all, it is raining here, so if you hear anything in the background, like thunder, maybe like rain hitting an air conditioner, that is the fact that, that's based around the fact that it is raining. I don't know why I continuously end up recording Matt Rants while it's raining, but it does happen. And if you also hear some other stuff going on in the background, there's a good chance that that is my neighbors. Apparently they're getting work done on their house or something like that, so I've noticed that going on as well, so it's been a little bit hard to record because of that, because I constantly hear slamming, banging, all this kind of stuff. So before we move on to the topic at hand, though, I want to mention that right now, I just checked, we are at more than 600 videos. That's right, you thought I was going to say subscribers, but no, we are though at more than 100 subscribers. Nearly, it's a little bit fluctuating here and there, but I'm pretty sure right now we are at 111 subscribers. I want to thank all 111 of you guys, even if you're not watching the video, even if you know, you're tuning in for the first time and you're not a subscriber. You can also like and subscribe if you like. You can do that, but still, I just want to thank you guys so much. You know, I know that you know, some people will say, oh, it's just 100, but to me, it's not that. To me, it's much more than that, because I actually got 100 people, and some of you guys aren't even people that I know in real life, to actually go, oh wow, I like this person's content, and also liking other people that I've brought on the show as well, and other stuff that we've done as well. So thank you all so much. And in terms of the back to the 600 videos thing, yeah, that's still also a feat as well. The fact that we've actually gotten to 600 videos, not all of them super long, but also not all of them, you know, a few seconds long or something like that as well. So we do have a nice steady mix of jumbly stuff. So also nearing 50 episodes of Matt Rants as well, and what a 50 episodes it's been. So either way, again, thank you all so much. Love you all. I'll do the love you all thing and thanks and all that other stuff at the end of the video. I'll talk about, you know, Patreon and all that other stuff at the end of the video. But right now, we're going to talk about the topic at hand for the day, which is, should Nintendo shut down ROM sites? Oh boy, this is going to be a fun one. Now, the reason why I didn't want to write, you know, something like can they, is because, yes, they can. Not even from a legal perspective, but just from they have the money, they can technically shut them down if they want to, but more so of a should they. And you know, there's reasons why I think they should and they shouldn't, and also I do want to, before we get to, you know, my feelings on the matter at the end of the video, I also want to mention as well, we should also look at, you know, not just, you know, the should they stuff, but also, do they have the legal precedent? Why do they? Why, you know, why should they from a legal perspective, and things like that. So we're going to talk about, you know, pros and cons and things like that. And yeah, I don't know if this is going to shock some of you. I know that some of you guys have probably seen videos like this before throughout the years, but there's always just a few things to think about. This was spurred on due to the fact that Nintendo was looking for, I believe it was $100,000. Actually, some have been saying 100 million. It might have been $100 million dollars. You know, they basically it seemed to be suing a website, or the person behind a website called LoveRoms. You can't look it up now. LoveRoms is gone. However, there are a bunch of other ROM sites that still do exist. But still, they're going after LoveRoms, and so yeah, let's also take a look at why. Because they could have made the video, oh, well, you know, should they just be going after LoveRoms or something like that? But that's a bit too much, I think, like a bit too precise. So anyway, so let's talk about reason number one, right? Talking about, are they legally allowed to do so? Well, you know, they are. That's the thing. Like, legally, they are 100% within their right, allowed to do so. I do understand that someone else ripped these ROMs. However, under US law, that does not constitute them actually owning the rights to the ROM. Now, I do get why to some people it's a little bit muddy, or you know, something like that, but it's, you know, it's not as if they've done a hack or some kind of homebrew based on their original cartridge of, you know, Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario World, or something like that. If they did that, still technically you're not legally allowed to make a transformative work. Even if it's a non-profit situation, you're legally not allowed to, according to US law. But I can understand why someone would talk about artistic freedom and things along those lines. But for a second here, let's compare this to the anime fandom for a second. Are anime fan subs legal? If you answered yes, sorry, but you're wrong. If you answered there's a kind of a gray area, you're still technically wrong. Just because these companies aren't going after these fan sub distributors doesn't actually make it legal or any less gray. The reason why they probably don't go after these fan translators and these fan subbers, I would hope it's due to the fact that many times, not all times, sadly, but many times a fan subber is bringing something out that doesn't exist within that territory. So for years you had stuff like tokusatsu fan subs. If you don't know what tokusatsu is, going away from anime for a second, tokusatsu is, instead of telling you what it is altogether, I'll just name some shows that fall in the tokusatsu branch. Stuff like Super Sentai, which became Power Rangers in the US, Kamen Rider, which became Masked Rider, and also Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, and stuff like Ultraman, which Ultraman Tiga was actually dubbed over by 4Kids, and it was on Fox Box back in the day, and also Godzilla as well. So that's tokusatsu. Basically, there's other shows in tokusatsu branch as well, but too much to explain just for this alone, just for this small example. So Godzilla, of course, has been here for years. Ultraman on and off, mostly no. And Super Sentai, Power Rangers isn't exactly the same thing, and Super Sentai is only recently, within the last 5-6 years, has been released by, actually less than 6 years, really 3-4 years mostly, has been released by Shout Factory, who does also release Power Rangers on DVD as well. They're releasing Super Sentai on DVD now, which is fucking awesome. So the point is that before that, there were a bunch of fan subbers around, and there still are for some of the newer shows, because Crunchyroll or websites like Crunchyroll don't actually have the newest Super Sentai and Kamen Rider out on streaming services. So when it comes to shows like that, I kind of can hear what people are saying. It's still technically illegal under stuff like the Berne Convention and things like that, but at the same time, the show doesn't exist here in a way where we can legally consume it. That's why when something, hopefully, I've seen many fan subgroups do this, and I hope others do as well, when you get the chance to buy a product legally, like the Super Sentai DVDs, fan subbers pull their subs from their websites. Why? Because of the fact that the DVDs exist, and they're currently in print. You can buy them right now. So, talking about, it from the anime perspective as well, again, stuff that's out on Crunchyroll, even though, yes, Crunchyroll has their restrictions, but still, when it comes to talking to people here who are in the US, like myself, if you can watch it online, right, for free through Crunchyroll, yes, with some ads, but still, for free through Crunchyroll, then, you get rid of those fan subs. But whether or not the show is out here in English or not, be it subtitles or dubbed, it still is illegal to do fan subs. Sadly, transformative works, unless they're done for educational purposes, don't really fall under fair use. And fair use can really only be applied when you're actually brought into a courtroom. Yes, it's true. I know it might seem crazy, but it is true. Anyone who does a bridge series or anything when it comes to, like AMVs, things like that, when they put in fair use, it doesn't really do much unless the company's actually going after you in court, and then you have to prove fair use. Just putting fair use up isn't like not inviting a vampire into your house and going, haha, I've done it, I'm safe, or being across a vampire from a river and they can't fly over to you. I don't know why vampires are the theme today. Well, I mean, this is a Halloween in July, technically, episode of Matt Rants, due to the fact that, this website has shut down, so they're dead, and many of these ROMs are from games and franchises that are long since dead, but still, yes, the question becomes, the first thought is, oh no, but fair use, but legal, can they legally do this? And again, there can be a little bit of wiggle room when it comes to ROM hacks and homebrews, based off of, a homebrew that's actually based off of a game that's already been made, already been licensed. It's not your license. But at the end of the day, it's still technically illegal. And I understand that hurts. I'm not saying that it's right that it's illegal. If you want to say, well, it shouldn't be illegal, we should have never had Disney come in and extend copyright. I hear you. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that that's just the law. And speaking of the law, interestingly enough, if Nintendo doesn't go after some sites like these, just every once in a while, not even going after every site, but just going after one site or one person every once in a while, then they do actually have the potential to set a legal precedent. Now, it's very interesting because usually a legal precedent is only really set in court. However, what can happen potentially is, and again, I'm not saying this is right, I'm just saying it is the facts, it's the breaks. The fact that if Nintendo lets let's say those guys play, want to make a sequel to Super Mario RPG, which is funny because there actually was a controversy about this a while ago. A guy tried to start a Kickstarter about it. You can look it up on Slope's Game Room's channel. It's very interesting. That was like a Kick Scammer episode or something like that. So when this person tried to do that, if we tried to do something like that, but without the Kickstarter, we were just like, nope, we're just gonna pay people. We're gonna charge for it, even if we didn't charge for it. But still, we're gonna charge for it. It's gonna be Super Mario RPG Plus. Nintendo, if they let that happen, right, and they let us sell it, or even just give it away for free, what can end up happening is the next person that tries to do like a Earthbound for the N64, all of a sudden, or like some kind of like Earthbound super, like HD remake, kind of like that Chrono Trigger one, what could end up happening is when Nintendo tries to fight them in court for some reason, because Nintendo sits back and goes, we will never let anything Earthbound related come out here in the US. I wouldn't actually say that, although that would be funny if they were like, nope, we'll let the Super Mario RPG one fly, but we will not let it happen to Earthbound. So all of a sudden Nintendo tries to take them to court. What could then happen is that the lawyer, trying to defend this case could say, well, Nintendo didn't go after those other guys. Literally those guys. Why did I not? That was the perfect time to say those guys. Nintendo didn't go after those guys, so they shouldn't come after us guys either. And technically the judge can actually, or a jury can side with that lawyer due to the fact that Nintendo didn't aggressively protect their copyright when they had it, while they had it earlier than that case. It's weird. I'm not saying that I enjoy it. I'm not saying that it's the best method, but it's the method that we use in the US. Therefore, Nintendo does have to abide by it unless, shit like that does end up happening, where all of a sudden, Nintendo's trying to take, let's say, Pokemon Uranium creators to court, which I'm hoping they don't, because, and I'm happy that at least the creators took it down. It's still floating around, of course, but still, and the creators of Pokemon Uranium weren't trying to make money off of it. But still, the point is that, when it comes to, if they were trying to sue them in court, then all of a sudden, you could have a situation where the same thing would happen in the, hypothetical that I just brought up with us and, another random, company, fake company and all this. But still, so that's the issue, right? So, so we look at number one and we say that if you want to call it a pro, I guess, is that they legally are allowed to do so. Ripping the ROM in no way constitutes anything fair use. If you want it to be fair use, let's say in a court of law, and you want it to be educational, then what would happen is a museum would essentially have to step in, or some kind of, like a teacher at a university or a university itself or something like that, and would have to use these games to teach classes, but would have to use excerpts of them. Potentially you could use an entire game, but normally you would use excerpts of either a game, a magazine, a movie, a TV show, something like that. So, like, for instance, I can't, say I'm trying to educate you and then show you an entire 50 episodes of a tokusatsu or of an anime. That's not educating. That's going from education to entertainment. But if I wanted to show you the difference, in an academic setting or in an academic way, the difference between the show Arrow, right, U.S. superheroes on television versus Japanese superheroes on television, I could, according to fair use, show off different clips from both shows. However, it would definitely be best if I had myself either on video or narration or something like that to kind of tell you guys, hey, this is this, this is this, this is this. And that's actually why on my Teacher Productions YouTube channel, I usually do top fives with, yes, I have the audio in the background in the video as well, but I have my narration over it just to tell you guys, like, hey, by the way, this is like, I'm actually telling you guys my top five, not just here are my top fives and then showing you the entire video and song, like a tokusatsu opening or something like that, without any other kind of just anything, content right around it, like, my voice or video or something like that. So I don't know. It's funny. I don't know if that's in a pro or con section, whether or not they should or shouldn't. But technically, it is just something that stands regardless. Also, something we have to think about is stuff like ad money, subscription money, and donations. So this is on the should pile, in my opinion, why they should take down these sites. And here's why. Let me explain. So look, even if you say, right, even if you say, hey, all of these games are not being brought out again by Nintendo, and if they are, then they're, some of them are being sold for like, $1, not even $1, $5, $10, $15, and then other ones are just dropped to the wayside. Some of those aren't even Nintendo, properties or Nintendo licenses, like stuff like Mega Man and Street Fighter and stuff like that, okay? So maybe you say that, right? Maybe you say that, and you say, hey, people should be allowed to get them because, they don't exist anymore. And again, I'm not even technically arguing you on that point. But here's a common ground we kind of have to have. Again, maybe we don't, but in my opinion, we have to have in this regard. And here's the thing, right? Ad money, subscription money, donations, right? What I mean by that is, like, what's the negative there? It's the idea that, you shouldn't be getting any kind of subscription money or ad revenue money for hosting illegal files. And sorry, but that's just it. Right? That's just the thing. Like, even if you're going to say, oh no, but they should be able to be, the Robin Hoods of bringing these, these things out. And you know what, again, I hear you, right? Some of these games will never see the light of day again. Some of them are translations. I can't believe I've forgotten translations, bringing up hacks and homebrews and no translations. Translations are awesome, right? We get to play games that we've never gotten to play before. You could buy a game and still, put it in like your Retron 5 or something like that and be able to play the translation. You can use multiple tools to buy a game from Japan, convert it, I convert for lack of a better term, to a US cartridge, plug that into your Super Nintendo or your NES or something like that, and play some great games that you've never gotten to play before. That's awesome, right? But do you deserve money for that? Now, maybe as a translator, someone can commission you to translate the work. Yes, again, a little gray, a little muddy, but you're still commissioning a translator. I don't necessarily see a problem with that. It's the whole making these, not even making cartridges at this point, hosting a file that isn't even yours. So essentially like stealing a fan sub, if you will, of any kind, or stealing a movie of any kind, putting it on your you call it a streaming service, if you will, if it was like a movie or something, but your download service, if you want to even call it a service, and just say, hey, these aren't mine, these are someone else's, and we're going to make money off of them. That's the thing. Now, I don't think they were making $100 million, to be fair, but with the amount of with the numbers that they showed, where millions of people were going to the website, if they saw ads and they were getting ad revenue just by looking at the ad, not just by clicking on the ad, that adds up. And not even as a pun there, although it's kind of funny. But it really does add up. And so a situation where I don't really think, Nintendo looking for like $100 million is like, that's how much they really were making. No, but they were still making money regardless. And this is something we have to look at when, we're kind of bringing down the hammer, or we see another company bringing down the hammer. We have to see whether or not, like, okay, were these just fans having a good time? Or as Nintendo puts it in the court case, which is actually kind of funny. They were saying stuff like, the lawyer was saying stuff like, these are not fans. This is an organization. They were using Nintendo as if like they were using Nintendo's likenesses, which I assume means that they made like banners with Nintendo characters, which is it's funny only because like you can download like Microsoft Paint and just put in Nintendo characters if you get the vectors. So it's not like you have to be like a professional mafia organization to make some banners, but still getting ad revenue of any kind, or even accepting donations to try to keep the servers running. It's like, sorry, but because this is a fan project, you're doing this as a fan. But I do believe that it does become a problem once you start making money from it. And yes, things change over time. Heck, Crunchyroll originally started off as a website like YouTube that hosted pirated anime. And then a bunch of companies came in and were like, no, remove all this stuff. And then they were like, okay, well, wait a minute. What if we clean up our act, we license anime, so we're giving you guys money, and we're putting it online? And I believe like their first show was Gintama, funnily enough. Just such a strange show to think of as their first show. And it was their first show, and you know what? Crunchyroll's been legit ever since. Like, you can turn everything around. But the issue, of course, is that this person was hosting not only Nintendo ROMs, but a bunch of other ROMs as well. And, you can't, like, I don't believe, and you guys correct me if you can correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section below, but I don't believe the person that made Crunchyroll was making money when the service first came out. I don't think they were. If they were, then all right, people were making money on ad revenue like Google, YouTube is with Google. If he was, and if they were, that is frustrating, and that does kind of I guess put it in the same area as something like LoveRoms might be in, because to be fair, I don't know if LoveRoms actually had ads or were making money. I never frequented the site myself. If I ever needed something to if I ever needed to get some kind of game to review it or something like that, or needed some clips from something, I would usually get it from different websites. So I never actually frequented LoveRoms, so I don't know if it had ads. If it did, then and if it didn't, well, then, rather if it didn't, if it did, again, it's in the pro on why Nintendo should at least be taking down that specific site or sites like that, because you just can't make money off of that stuff. And guys, I know, I get it, a lot of you guys out there are going to be like, no, but Nintendo isn't, or this other company isn't. But just because they're not making money doesn't mean that you can or should. Distributing it, okay, again, we can have that conversation. I'll probably lean towards your thoughts on it when it comes to distributing it for free. But once you start taking money for it, you stop, become less like Robin Hood, and become more like a like a capitalist, which nothing wrong with capitalism. I love capitalism, but still, if you're coming at it from the Robin Hood perspective of giving everything to everybody, it kind of changes when you start taking either subscriptions or, ads, putting, ads to make money, or other kind of donations, like stuff like Patreon and stuff like that. Not really built for people who are bringing, things that don't really constitute fair use and are selling other people's, work. So moving on to the next reason why Nintendo, I'm not going to say, I'll say should, if you will, should take down some of these sites. They could be setting up something in the future. Now, this is super frustrating when it comes to video games. It's a bit better when it comes to anime, if you will, and I'll explain why in a second. So, Funimation and other companies like Funimation that release anime in the West, when they've licensed a show, even if we don't know that they licensed a show yet, we'll notice that sometimes fan subbers will come out and say, hey, I just got an email. It was a cease and desist from Funimation. That's odd. They haven't announced this show yet, et cetera, all this stuff. And then we'll realize, it's basically an unofficial way of saying, hey, this might as well be our press conference. We've licensed this show. Remove the show. So, and then of course Funimation will put it out either on DVD, it might end up on television. Now they have Verve, which is like a Crunchyroll type streaming service, or they have Crunchyroll as well. Or they work with Crunchyroll rather closely. When with anime, it's kind of like, okay, good. It's a television show that's going to come up soon, and if a company is telling people to cease and desist with it, then it'll probably show up within the next month or so. However, when it comes to video games, especially with Nintendo in this case, yes, this could be a sign that Nintendo is putting a lot of their video games up on the Switch, on their streaming service. It's a very good sign of that, and frankly, I would prefer that over a virtual console that's trying to charge us $5 to $10 to $15 per game. But at the same time, though, not everyone has a Switch. I don't have a Switch. Maybe you don't. If you do, tell me how much you love it in the comments below. I'm not against the Switch. I just don't have one. That's a lot of money. And so I don't have one, but I am interested in getting one in the future for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and even for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. But still, don't have one. And so that service won't really mean much to me. I have original cartridges, so I can just plug those in. Those are fun, but still, I don't have that service or that system, so it's meaningless to me. But to Nintendo, it's money on the table, right? It's money that they wouldn't be able to get in the future because you can just have the ROM stored, on your system. And it won't really matter whether or not, you're going to try to buy their streaming service, which does cost a lot of money to have streaming services. Despite the fact that you see a bunch of companies and corporations coming up with streaming services, I can assure you it actually is very expensive. So you have that coming up, or rather you have the service coming up. So perhaps they are trying to take it down, not just so that they can protect themselves legally, but so that they can also end up putting these out on their service within the next calendar year. But again, within the next calendar year, that's a long time, especially for games that are 30 years old by now. And now we're going to move to some more cons, because I know I've been very pro-heavy, so I'm sure some of you guys are getting the pitchforks out, the pitchforks out already, but let's go to some cons. And the first con is pretty obvious. These games are old. And what that means is that, yeah, like the games are so old that are people actually going to get either streaming service or, more importantly, still put money into the 3DS Virtual Console and the Wii U Virtual Console to actually buy these games at $5, $10, $15 a piece? Will they? I don't know. Right? Some do. I know that I have in the past, especially mostly with games that were already handheld, like some Kirby Game Boy Advance, some Kirby Game Boy games that I never got to play. I got those on my 3DS, and those were a lot of fun. But we do have to acknowledge that these games are so old that I don't think people are going to be buying them individually, so maybe the streaming service will help, but they'd have to put a lot of games on the streaming service, I think, to make some people want to get them, because of course there's some people like myself who are just like, why don't I just buy an NES Classic or a Super NES Classic instead of having to, buy a Switch and then buy this service. And also because it's an online service, unless you can download the games onto your Switch for when you're offline, you can't take these games on the go, which I don't know about you guys, but to me is pretty frustrating when you have a console that's built on being mobile. But again, not too sure about that. I've talked about that in the past, the whole online service thing a while ago in a different Matt Rants. But that is one con, right? Are people going to buy all of these individually due to the fact that these games are so old? Another con, and not one that I like as an argument, but it still is a con regardless. There are people like me that have a bunch of consoles, or even just one console, or even if you don't have the original Super Nintendo, you have other ways like the Super AVS, AVS. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, or other kind of Super Nintendo clones and stuff like that. So you plug those using HDMI, since those all support HDMI mostly, into your HD television, and then you play cartridges that way. And if you're buying a cartridge for 10, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 bucks, maybe more, but still you're buying these cartridges, then that's a sale that's not going to Nintendo either. Now, I personally think it's a bit better, unless you see someone price gouging, in which case please don't support price gouging, or scalpers. But if you're buying something that you think is fair, and you think it's not so bad for the general gaming ecosystem, it's not really raising the price up from $100 to $700, then hey, you know what, you buy your cartridge and you're still putting money into the gaming ecosystem rather than just exclusively downloading ROMs. And again, nothing wrong with downloading ROMs necessarily, just putting it out there that cartridges, in my opinion, a little bit better than ROMs. Again, unless you're someone has like a $10 game at $900, and you're like, I think that's fair. It's like you'll have me in slow motion immediately going, no, don't do that. But still, that is a con for them, on the whole, taking down these websites when they're still losing money regardless in terms of cartridge sales. Another issue as well is that these ROM sites have existed forever, and that's not necessarily saying that if something has existed forever, then we clearly can't go after it, because times change, values change, people change, all that stuff, things change, right? We have to acknowledge that things do change. However, I just feel as if, Nintendo they're not necessarily scaring anyone by putting up this high price tag in this lawsuit. It's just scaring people from potentially trying to make money off of this, which is still good. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just, for them to try to dissuade people from making money off of it. But if it's trying to dissuade them from getting rid of ROMs altogether, I don't think it'll do that. I mean, there's always one person out there in the US right now who has ROMs on a CD-ROM, like a 10-year-old CD-ROM with ROMs. It's just how it is, right? Another thing I want to mention as well, another con, I would say, is the fact that Raspberry Pis exist, which is going to sound silly coming from me, because I'm usually, every time I mention anything, or I see anyone mention oh, here's a really cool thing, it's a classic edition, and you just have someone sliding in but the Raspberry Pis, and I'm like, please stop. But in this case, Raspberry Pis actually do matter in this situation. The reason why I say this is because there are a bunch of people right now who, I'm not happy with people selling loaded Raspberry Pis, because again, don't make money off of selling ROMs. You can sell, a Raspberry Pi with RetroPie on it, even though RetroPie doesn't like that. So I'm not saying you should do that, but that's a bit different than selling, all of these, loaded with 700 plus games or something like that. But people are doing that. And my whole point is the idea that you're not going to stop piracy just by saying, let's get rid of this ROM site, let's have that $100 million tag on it, because if you on the lawsuit, because doing that, again, it might dissuade some people, I'm sure, but there's people right now who are just in their houses with Raspberry Pis with games that either they acquired themselves or they bought a loaded Raspberry Pi or something like that, and they're just chilling. Right? They're just chilling, and they might want to get the Nintendo streaming service. See a lot of YouTubers wanting to get that Nintendo Switch streaming service by the fact that they might have a Raspberry Pi, or they might have a NES or Super NES Classic Edition, or even some of the at-game stuff. They might have some of that stuff, and they might even have original consoles too. But they're like, the streaming service seems fun, etc., 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 etc. But still, Raspberry Pis do exist. So we have to acknowledge that not only do ROMs exist, but there are ways to play them in ways that don't involve Nintendo and don't even involve clone systems at this point. So I don't know. I feel like that's on that they really shouldn't, in terms of it's kind of a losing battle. Now, I'm not saying that losing battles are always ones that shouldn't be fought, but in this case, even with 1 and 2 in the pro section, or at least in the just the ones we have to accept, the whole idea of 1 and 2, harkening back to the beginning of this video when I mentioned that they're legally allowed to do it and they have to set that legal precedent. Still, the point is that there's a lot that they have to fight against, that when they're trying to kind of make this scare tactic, the question is, does it work? Right? Will it work? And that's the thing, because I think that's like, should they take them down? That's a question I'm going to answer in a second or in a minute. But the idea of, will the scare tactic work? That I think is going to be a harsh no. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a bunch of sites close down. Maybe we get no ROMs. But it is the internet, so I feel like if all of these sites, right? Let's say there's 100 sites right now. I feel like there's less, but there also might be a lot more. But I'm talking about like hubs with like hundreds of ROMs. If 100 of these sites shut down, I feel like 1,000 other people feeling slighted by the 100 sites shutting down will come together to form another 1,000 sites. Right? So I feel as if, as a scare tactic, this isn't going to work. However, should Nintendo shut down ROM sites? I'm gonna have to go with a yes on this one, but it hurts. And here's why. I'm not saying that, and it really does hurt me, but it's just the fact that it's Nintendo. Here's the thing too, actually. You know what? I'll even say this. I'll even add a little caveat. Nintendo only going after their specific stuff to be removed. But, then Sega would have to come after Sega stuff and things like that. But the reason why I'm saying Nintendo should is because it's just a purely business perspective thing. As a consumer, they shouldn't. But from a complete business perspective, they should, based on not just the legal stuff as well, but, again, they're going to be re-releasing stuff on different consoles and things like streaming services and virtual consoles and things like that. But it pains me as a consumer to say that they should, because they really should. And I do think that in this case the cons do outweigh the pros as a consumer, but from a business point of view, the pros definitely outweigh the cons. And it hurts. It really hurts, because I don't want to say yes. It's just this constant war that's fighting in me, the consumer side and the business side. Because as a consumer, of course, I don't want them to shut these places down, because again, some of these games are orphaned. We're never going to see them again in any kind of either collections on, we're not going to see them either on the Super Nintendo. We're not going to see them on virtual consoles of any kind. There aren't going to be discs at all. These games are lost to time. Even though it would be awesome, there weren't enough of them to even justify a Classic Edition. Are we going to see a Chester Cheetah Classic Edition with all of your classic Chester Cheetah games like Too Cool to Fool or Wild Wild Quest? Are we going to get a Cheeto? It's like a NES Classic, but it just looks like there's like Cheeto dust on the side of it. Are we going to get that version of of a Classic Edition? Hell no. Not even no. Hell no. But does that mean that Nintendo shouldn't take down, at very least, their ROMs? It's hard. It's a hard decision. It's a constant war inside of me. But please tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think Nintendo should take down these ROM sites? Do you think that they shouldn't? Do you think, like me, that there's, certain exceptions, like if they're making money or they're not making money, or, if Nintendo plans to re-release stuff, maybe this is a sign of that, right? Again, do you disagree? Do you agree? Either way, would love to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section below. Like I said earlier, please remember to like, subscribe if you liked the video, and if you didn't like the video and you think I'm pro-corporate and pro-Nintendo and pro-consumer, here's what you can do. You can still like the video, and you can also still subscribe. You can still do it either way. You can hate watch all of our content. I have no problem with that. But anyway, love you all. Thank you all so much for watching. I mentioned earlier, you can check out our Patreon as well, patreon.com/TGProductions. You can actually go there, and depending on what tier you donate to, you can actually ask me certain questions, and I can do a Matt Rants just based on some of your questions alone. Or if I get so many questions, I can just do a general Q&A video. Heck, depending on who you ask, because we have a bunch of people here at Those Guys Play, I can get some of them to come on to ask to answer questions and things like that. And also, we have a bunch of tiers dedicated to our Those Guys on the Radio YouTube channel, as well as our TG Productions YouTube channel as well. Also, for some, or if not all of the stuff that I mentioned in this video, there will be affiliate links in the description box below. If Tokusatsu excites you and you haven't bought some of the Sentai sets yet, you can buy them here and now. Understand that I have no connection to Shout Factory or any other company that I've mentioned in this video other than Amazon, because the affiliate links are from them. So I have a connection to Amazon. Other than that, no connections whatsoever. Either way, again, thank you all so much. Love you all. Take care, and tune in next time for another Matt Rants. And I know a lot of YouTubers say they want to hear stuff from you in the comments below, but I actually really do. Like, I love these Matt Rants because I love hearing your guys' different takes. I mean, so many people watched the Atari VCS video, and yes, a lot of negativity there. Some will say it was for me, but it was definitely a lot of people disliking my take in the comment section, or not even the comment section, in the just the dislike ratio. But I'll say this much, right? I saw all your comments, and I would just be hanging out doing something else non-YouTube related, and I'd get a notification on my phone that one of you guys commented, or that somebody commented, and even if it was a negative comment, I'd go, oh, that's really nice. I'm happy that someone, is joining in on the discussion. So don't think I don't like the comments. Don't think I don't look at the comments. Please comment. Would love to hear from you, even if you're saying I'm terrible. Would still love to hear from you guys. All right, so again, thank you. Love you. Take care. Tune in next time. Another Matt Rants. See ya.